Hello, podcast listeners. You are now listening to the Coffee, Health, and Science podcast. I'm your host, Jordan River, and I want to thank you for tuning in again today. Before we get started, as always, I urge you to share the show. Share the Coffee, Health, and Science podcast. Tell a friend about the show. It's how we grow. I really do appreciate it. You're helping me out when you tell a friend about the Coffee, Health, and Science podcast. Today, we have a fan favorite back again, a good friend of mine. I would consider him a self-esteem and happiness expert. He is a relationship counselor and an author and so much more. Dr. Joel Wade is back on the show. How's it going, Joel?
Good. Hi, Jordan. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, my friend. The audience really loved your last episode. You came on. You've come on a few times, actually. But the last one we talked about morning rituals, and it fit very well in the show. People loved it. That episode got downloaded quite a bit. And so I wanted to have you back on and follow up on some of these rituals that we can instill, some of these habits that we can instill, specifically at the other end of the day, maybe some nighttime rituals. So you ready to jump into this topic today?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Awesome. So cool. So I'm just going to cue you up first. I have so many thoughts on this myself. And of course, we're going to get into things like coffee. But I'm just going to cue you up first and say,
okay.
You know, you gave us so many good principles and strategies for morning rituals last time. Where is your head at the other end of the day? What are some of the strategies that you've seen for nighttime rituals that are some of the most impactful and some of the highest leverage?
Well, a couple of things to understand about the nighttime that's different than the morning is, well, first of all, your nighttime rituals set you up for your morning rituals.
Ooh, I like
so that. if your morning ritual includes getting up at 5 or 6 in the morning, but you don't have nighttime rituals that get you to bed, if you're getting to bed at 3 in the morning,
right,
you're not going to get up at 5 or 6 in the morning and function. So, and if you sleep poorly, or if you go to bed feeling awful, that's going to disrupt your morning rituals for the next day. So understanding that our evening rituals set us up for our morning rituals and that day is an important piece.
That's so true.
So I would start with what you want for the next day, and then it's a math problem. We all need about 8 hours of sleep, give or take. But really, and the thing about, let me say something about sleep. As we get older, our second half of our sleep tends to get more disrupted more easily. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is we have 8 hours to sleep, but maybe we wake up at 3 or 4 and we feel awake. So we're just awake. And then we start feeling like, well, I only really need 6 hours of sleep, right? Because that's all I'm getting.
Sure.
And so we only allow 6 hours. And then we end up waking up an hour before that. And so it starts dialing back our actual sleep time. And that's actually one of the contributors to mental decline.
Wow.
Is not getting enough sleep as we get older. And one of the reasons is that we sort of chop away at the amount of sleep that we allow ourselves, the time that we allow ourselves to sleep. So knowing that we need a good night's sleep and setting ourselves up for that. So we start with, what time are we waking up in the morning? Let's say it's 6 in the morning. Well, that means you really need to be falling asleep by 10. It's just a math problem. And so you start with where you want to be in the morning, and you just figure it from there. So that's your bedtime. And then we can talk more about how to set up for that.
Well, I think that there's a powerful result from just being on a strict schedule. I think you're right. Regardless of the sleep you get on any individual night, my understanding is the way that your circadian rhythms work and the way that your digestion and your microbiome work is that if you can get on that same I don't even want to say sleep-wake schedule, but just the same rest period schedule.
Yes.
That is such a good, and then like you said, you avoid that dialing back, less and less sleep, leading to cognitive decline, increased risk of Alzheimer's and dementia. You start drinking more coffee just to get through the day, and that's not where you want to be. That's a place of unwellness. Really, really interesting getting on a schedule. Really interesting setting up for the next day. Literally setting up for the next day. Like if your morning ritual is to wake up and drink lemon and apple cider vinegar, literally going to get that glass and setting it by the bedside. That's a very good point.
Yeah. Having everything ready for when you get up. Like, for example, I get up. I normally get up and go work out at this place that's about 5 minutes from where I live. So the night before, I set out what I'm going to wear, my workout gear, and it's all set up. I stick my keys in my sweatpants, and so all I got to do is throw them on and get in the car.
Right.
There's not a bunch of stuff I have to think about in the morning. I've set that up the night before.
Making it as easy as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And that's especially helpful if you're just getting started trying to install a good habit. Make it easy.
Absolutely.
Make it as easy as you can. Don't make it hard on yourself. Make sure the car's got gas, make sure that the clothes are laid out. That's a really good point.
And I want to say something about having a regular schedule.
Sure.
That's also important, especially if you're struggling at all with moods, with anything with depression or anxiety or even sort of manic kind of things or anything where your mood gets disrupted easily. And there's a lot of forms that can take. The more you can make your schedule regular, the easier it's going to be on you. Our mood system likes routine. It likes to know what's happening. And a lot of us crave, excitement, novelty and stuff too. But if we can do that within a framework where we have regular sleep and so our rhythms can have a normalcy to them, then we can have all kinds of adventures during the day. Within that structure. Exactly.
No, Dr. Joel, this is actually pretty massive, and I think we're going to take a bit of a turn here because I'm going to share a personal story as well. Is that, let me start with a yes or no question, and then I'll share this story. Is that a direct function of the hormonal system and the way your hormones distribute?
I don't have enough detailed information to know that is part of it, but it's really our mood system is designed to keep us. Here's what happens when our mood drops. When our mood drops, we actually think more clearly for a time. And unless our mood drops way down chronically, in which case our thinking gets less good. Mm-hmm. We start ruminating. We do all kinds of stuff that's not good for us. But initially, when our mood drops, what's happening is something's happening we need to adapt to. We've suffered a loss. We feel stuck somewhere. We're banging our head against goals that we can't actually achieve. Not challenging goals, not really hard goals, but goals that aren't going to happen. Mm. And so our mood system says, okay, you got to stop and rethink this. We got to find another route. And so it drops our energy, and to use it well, we want to think, okay, what's just happened? Oh, I just lost a dear friend, or I just lost a circumstance I was looking forward to, or I feel stuck. And then so you want to orient to what's happening and what may be affecting your mood, and then make some different decisions. Sometimes what affects our mood is that our sleep has been crappy or it's disrupted. So the stereotypical thing where people have a regular routine for Monday through Friday, and then they stay up and party on the weekend and wake up late. That's part of what's painful about that is you're disrupting your mood system. you're throwing a wrench into the regular schedule that you have.
Wow. That is
It's
fascinating.
much better to keep a regular sleep wake time. If you can establish a bedtime and a wake time that's more or less consistent, that can go a long ways to just sort of naturalistically help you have more well-being just on a fundamental level.
I know that so much of it has to be chemical, and maybe just saying hormonal was a bit of relegation, but this makes so much sense. And I'm going to share just a quick personal anecdote. I've been suffering from a bout of cluster headaches recently. If someone's been diagnosed with cluster headaches, you know what they are. They're a very specific and strange kind of headache where you get bouts of them. You'll get a couple of weeks, at least me, everybody's different, but I'll get a couple of weeks where I get headaches every single day, and then they'll go away for like 3 years. The last time I had a bout was 3 years ago. Anyways, I was looking, I went deep down the, like I always do, I went deep down the lifestyle change rabbit hole. I literally did everything and anything I could. It turns out Dr. Coffee is a cluster headache specialist. We're going to put together a standalone series on cluster headaches on a separate podcast. A little teaser there for the audience.
Wonderful.
But anyways, I'm finally getting over this bout, and I was doing all these different things, from a liquid diet of green smoothies and bone broth to every supplement you could name, some pretty natural, crazy supplements. But one of the things that made me feel best, two of the things that made me feel best, getting on a regular sleep and wake schedule. And man, mine was messed up. I stay up late doing 3-hour streams on my other show. You know what I mean? And then I'll sleep in the next day. And then people know I play poker late into the night. I had to cut all that out and get on a regular sleep and wake schedule. That was huge. And then the other one was fasting before bed and allowing my digestion to completely not have any work so I can get restful sleep over the night. What I learned about cluster headaches is that there is a serotonin issue with cluster headaches. They're always low on serotonin. I wasn't feeling depressed or anything. You know what I mean? I like you said, it manifests, and that's what stood out to me when you said breaking the circadian rhythms manifests in different things, because I wasn't feeling bummed or sad or what you would consider, generally considered depressed. But instead I started getting these wild headaches, man. And I also know that serotonin is largely tied to our microbiome health, which I was not doing well.
Yes.
Again, not implementing my fasting correctly, eating way too late into the night. That was big for me. And cluster headaches are weird because the bouts kind of pass on their own, so it's hard to tell what's working. But I will say those things made me feel better almost instantly when I started implementing those changes. Even before the bouts passed, they started to make me feel way better. And it showed me the importance of a regular sleep and wake schedule, I believe, because it has something, it's very, very closely tied to your microbiome and your hormone production. That's my super layperson's theory, which I know is way too generalized and I'm sure true, but
it's you're definitely on the right track with that, because and serotonin isn't just about, well, I don't have enough, so I'm depressed. It has a lot to do with just a feeling of well-being. Just I feel pretty good. Without serotonin, that's why when people are on antidepressants and then they just stop, the antidepressants have changed the feedback mechanism. They've changed the equilibrium in our chemistry, and so what happens is there's no serotonin all of a sudden.
Right.
None. And then there's just such an awful drop. It feels like, why am I even here? It can, awful things come from that. So our serotonin is a really, it's an essential ingredient for our well-being.
Fascinating stuff.
Yeah. And our sleep wake cycle has a lot to do with it. And the microbiomes. There's so much research that's been done on that the last 5-10 years. Really good stuff about that. So you're on the right track with all that.
So for me, it's key to not, you have to prepare and you can't set yourself up for failure before bed. The big things for me, eating too late.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough to not eat anything after dinner. It's tough to have dinner and then just be
Yeah.
done for the night. Um,
Yeah.
I found a couple things that really agree with my digestion. Like I said, it's an expensive habit. I got to tell you, Joel, but
Mm-hmm.
I have a small mug of bone broth, which is
Ah.
really, really healthy. Doesn't really trigger my digestion personally. I squeeze
Mm.
some fresh lemon juice in there to aid in
Mm.
digestion.
Mm-hmm.
And that is my snack after dinner before bed. And I'm telling you,
Nice.
if you can implement a time where you go 3 or 4 hours after dinner before bed without eating, and then the
Yeah.
next morning, maybe you just have some coffee with a little bit of milk, doesn't seem to trigger my digestion personally.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, go a couple of hours that morning, you're going to start seeing massive benefits from that fasting. But again, this is my
Mm.
personal anecdote. And
Yeah.
Joel, I know as a doctor, you have to say, right, like everybody's different. Always try these things
Yeah.
carefully. But dude,
Yeah.
I see people tell this story over and over.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and there's another kind of um, step back and look at the big picture part of a nighttime ritual, and that is that our willpower is gets fatigued.
Yeah, it does.
So over when we get up and we're raring to go and stuff, we have plenty of energy. We have glucose in our blood system, which doesn't mean eat candy bars. It just means glucose is the form that energy takes in our bodies from eating our diet.
We're supposed to get it from like vegetables, the brain doctor on the show said. It's like, oh, damn, not candy.
Yeah, so it spreads out throughout the day, and so what happens is our willpower is like a muscle. And Roy Baumeister has done some wonderful research on this. It's one of my favorite researchers and social psychologists. And he wrote a great book titled Willpower. And one of the things that we found is that it fatigues just like a muscle. So over the course of the day, we're using our willpower every time we make a decision. Every time we use our consciousness and intervene in just our rote habits in the day. Every time we do that, we use some willpower that takes some energy. And then, we have lunch, and we maybe take a nap. Naps are great or something like that. And we recharge a little bit. But whatever we're doing, by the end of the day, our willpower is probably getting pretty tired. And so that's when all our bad habits come out to play.
Mm-hmm.
That's when people drink too much, they eat too much, they do the things, they get sucked into the surfing the web or watching TV, all the things that we know it would be better off if we didn't do those things. Or we know we'd be better off if we did, the nighttime ritual that we planned out, but our willpower is sapped.
Wow.
And so it makes everything more difficult. So understanding that can really help, because what tends to happen is we have a lot of discipline during the day and we're proud of ourselves. We feel good about what we've done. And then we, in some way or other in our mind, blow it at the end of the day.
Yep.
And then we feel bad.
Yep.
Then we feel maybe even ashamed. Maybe we feel like, oh, I've failed, or, we feel awful because we think that we failed. But all that happened is we got tired. We're just tired.
Momentary lapse.
We're not computers. We're not machines. We don't have this. We're not this. Everything functions on all 8 cylinders. No cars have 8 cylinders anymore, but but we're not functioning. Just consistently at 100%. That's not human. So understanding that and having some compassion and kindness toward ourselves, first of all, and accepting that, okay, towards the end of the day, it's going to be more challenging to do some kind of, intricate, big discipline ritual. Understanding all that, then we can think, okay, well, what's reasonable to do at the end of the day? And also, how can we set ourselves up so that we don't go down the road of some of the bad habits that, how can we structure things using our willpower? How can we structure things at the end of the day that makes it easy for us to flow into bedtime and a good night's sleep?
1,000%. Yeah.
And that's successful people actually use less willpower than less successful people. They actually use less willpower, but they use it to create structures so that they don't have to use their willpower on every little thing. And so the key isn't to just, be really all buff with willpower, because willpower works as a muscle in another way too. Is the more we use it, the stronger it gets. So if we apply discipline in one way, we have discipline in other areas too over time.
Sure, we could all be, Jocko Willenick or whatever his name is, the Navy SEAL guy. We could, if we all had that, But I think what you're saying, if we wanted to, we're all capable of that. But I think what you're saying is you can also work smarter when it comes to willpower rather than working harder.
And especially towards the end of the day, you want to work smarter, because harder gets harder because we're fatigued.
Very fascinating.
And so you want to have something that's pretty straightforward and pretty simple. Like, for example, alcohol is a big problem for a lot of people. And in the evening, sometimes people drink because it helps them fall asleep more easily. It helps me get to sleep. Well, it helps you get to sleep, but it actually messes with a good night's sleep.
Right.
So you don't sleep as well. And so, and because our willpower has dropped off, it's easier to, for some people, just, I'll have another one. Yeah, that'd feel good to have another one. And then you're messing with your chemistry in that way too. And so paying attention to how you feel, if you're going to drink at all, pay attention to what's the dose that works for you, that really works for you, so that maybe you have a drink, maybe you have maybe two, but maybe you find that, one is really good. I get that little, the feeling that I like, but I don't wake up feeling awful and I sleep well. Or just pay attention to your own system and your own feedback and what really works for you the next day, especially. So, with alcohol use, that's a real important one, because if you use alcohol and you're trying to have a ritual, not only is your willpower weakened, but alcohol, undermines your ability to use your willpower also. So it can throw everything into, down the drain.
That is so true. The avoid list is big then. You want to avoid staying up too late. You want to avoid eating too late. You want to avoid caffeine too late in the day. You want to avoid alcohol.
And screen time.
Oh my
if
God.
You can
that's
close
the
the screens an hour or two before you're going to try and go to sleep. That's a big one. Or at least have a filter so you're getting the red light, not the blue light.
Oh, a great point.
Because our ancestors, went to bed around a fire. So that's that nice red light, and so that can be soothing. So if you can't close your screen, at least put a filter so it's the red light, not the blue light. It's the blue light that stimulates the cortisone and the cortisol, in our systems, and messes with our sleep.
Thanks for bringing that up. If you are in your iPhone, you can hold down the brightness function, and there's a yellow filter. There's also a great program called Flux, Flux, and that goes on your computer. So I run that. It detects when it's nighttime and it tints your screen. That's a really good point. I think that if you can just cut out the mental stimulation in general, then you're a hero. That's a very, maybe people will do, the people will read. I'm such an input addict that the best I can do, which I still find to be so much better than screen time, is just audio. put something on in my ear. I'll watch stuff all day, but when 8 o'clock rolls around, I just put on something audio. I still get the brain stimulation, but I'm not looking at any screens, and that really helps me personally.
Yeah, and if you can have a story that you like, so fiction. I never read nonfiction at night because then I'm thinking about it.
Me too. It's always like comedy or something just to zone out. Story though is good. A story is good. But
a story that you like, and if especially like if you've been through a really rough time, like the headaches you described, or something else has been really stressful and you're kind of worked up, having a story that you're familiar with already that you enjoy.
Wow.
That can really help you settle into a good night's sleep and settle your system down.
Is that ancestral again?
Probably, because that's what we did. We told stories around the fire. Yeah, we're storytelling creatures. That's such a central part of who we are.
Jeez.
And so, that can help you settle down. Another thing that's a nice thing to do at the end of the day is think of 3 good things that happened that day.
Oh, I love that.
So that's kind of bringing in the gratitude a little bit, but it's also really focusing on appreciation for that particular day. It puts the day in focus a little bit. Or another thing is to think of what are the 3 best connections that I felt this day.
Mm-hmm.
What are the, who did I connect with this day? Might be the same person, it might be your wife or your husband or a friend, or it doesn't matter, but just think of what are the 2 or 3 best connections that I had today. And those can help you aim towards sleep with a sense of sort of positivity and benevolence and feeling like the universe is a friendly place.
Mm-hmm. Man, incredible.
And,
I feel like we could probably do a whole nother episode on sleep and substances. Talk about melatonin, talk about alcohol and CBD, and that might be cool. So we just blew through
magnesium oxide.
Oh, magnesium's another great one. Yeah,
magnesium oxide, not citrate. Citrate will just give you the runs, but magnesium oxide will help your sleep a little bit. Help you get back to sleep if you wake up. It also helps your cholesterol just a little bit.
I use the Calm. Am I using the diuretic stuff?
I don't know.
I like Calm. That stuff's good. You just dissolve it in hot water. What I'm saying is, Joel, this has been a lovely half hour. Just flew by. We should probably do a part 2. I imagine. So maybe another one on sleep, or like I said, we'll figure out a good frame to put around that. But we appreciate you so much. You're such a great wealth of information and like practical, applicable tools. Really love it.
Thank you, Jordan. That means a lot to me. Yeah, I like stuff that's just sort of naturalistic and genuinely useful. I don't like all this, well, you need to take a dose of take this antidepressant, and then it goes. There's so many things that we try to do with just a quick fix. Just I'm broken. Let me fix it. But most of the time, we're not broken at all. It's just our routines are messed up. We need to get our habits, going in a way that works for us.
Wow, I love that, man. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Well, let's shout it out here. drjoelwade.com. Of course, the Mastering Happiness podcast. That's a podcast that I produce with Dr. Joel Wade. There's so many good episodes just sitting, living out there. Find that on the same platform that you're listening to this. Stay tuned for more Mastering Happiness work. The Emotions course, Dr. Joel?
Yeah. Mastering Emotions, Moods, and Reactions is my new course. And that's, again, looking at us as living organisms instead of, machines or something. And there's so much that we understand about emotions and moods and the reactions of fight or flight, which, when people get angry, oftentimes it's not an emotion, it's a reaction. You don't know it, but you're trying to protect yourself from a predator attacking you when it's really just your friend, misunderstood you.
Wow. I never really distinguished that.
Yeah. It really helps to distinguish those three things from one another and to understand what they're for.
Wow.
So that's what this course is all about.
Love it. Everybody go and check that out, of course, and everybody stay tuned for more Coffee, Health, and Science podcasts. This is Dr. Joel Wade and Jordan River signing off for now. Wishing you an extraordinary day. We'll see you next time on the CHSP.